Hi everyone, this is Dina McCowie and I'm here with Rahfeal Gordon, Global Leadership Advisor, entrepreneur, and author, and he's here to talk about his personal experiences in the road to resilience and his career path and how he became leader, mentor, and I'm just here to speak about his experiences and shed a light on whoever's going through difficulties. And so Rahfeal, just please tell us your experiences.
So just first of all, I'm just honored to be interviewed by you. Style of Resilience, like super awesome. So yes, I pretty much like my work is to inspire. Like that's like the main thing, is to inspire. But I use my story as one of the platforms to do that. Along with sharing my story, I do a lot of advising for world leaders and global entrepreneurs who are trying to impact the world in a positive way. And so they may be starting off locally in their communities or in their city, in their country, but they have potential to do something bigger and better. And so my goal is to help those entrepreneurs and young world leaders to be able to make big change on the global platform. So that's pretty much my work as a published author, which is a company that I actually run called Rahfeal Publishings, where I publish books for individuals who are experts in their field and those who have powerful stories to share, so pretty much share their testimony. And so our goal at the company is to find those individuals, get their words documented, and share it with the world.
And how long you've been doing that?
Professionally, the publishing company we had now for almost 12 years. And I've been doing public speaking professionally too, 13 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
what was the road like? I mean, why did you choose to become a global entrepreneur? And it's not a typical career somebody would pursue. A lot of times people go to college, they graduate, they have a corporate job. What was your path like, and why did you choose to do what you're doing?
Well, the thing was when I first started, when I got introduced to entrepreneurship, I was really young. I was in the 3rd grade. It was a program called the Ready Program, and they would talk to us about entrepreneurship, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And so, learning to sell candy, which was one of the first things that I did, with the money they gave me as like our seed money. We sold candy, crybabies and little lollipops and things like that. But so as I got older, I had experience being homeless, and my parents separated. My younger brothers and we all got separated when my father had departed, and we lived in shelters. We lived in the parks and the cars, and that thing took an effect on me and my brothers as well. But instead of me going out and doing what was the common thing they always say in the inner city when you don't have nothing, is to sell drugs or join a gang, I went back into that mindset of being an entrepreneur, which I learned in the 3rd grade. So I started selling candy in school. And it wasn't like I was just selling candy like out of my bag. Like I had workers. I had two kids on each floor selling different types of candy. Yeah, so hustling. But I was making like almost $300 a day selling candy, and my teachers couldn't understand it. Like, you're making more money than I do at some point. So, so that was me. And I going into, as I got older and started to build more businesses and companies when I got into college, I didn't really think about it being on a global standpoint. It just so happened that somebody just said, why don't you just think bigger? Like, why not affect other countries? And when social media came involved, I'm like, well, there's people in other countries following me. Like, wait a minute, like they're inspired, they understand my story. So when people started inquiring, like, how about you come out to Norway, come out to London, come out to Chile, come out to Puerto Rico? Like, I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And so that's kind of, the initial thing was kind of using social media as that leverage to go global, and seeing that I can actually affect change even without going there. But not only that, but people actually will bring you out there to tell your story, to understand your methods on how do you build a business, even when you're young, or even how do you not have a job, like you have a business and you've had it for your entire life. So, that was kind of like what it was.
Wow. I mean, talk about inspiring. I mean, somebody who was basically homeless to an entrepreneur. I mean, just to go back to that, I mean, how many years were you homeless, and how did that affect your mental well-being, your health? How was that? I mean, I'm sure there were days where you were like, there's no way out. I'm never gonna amount to anything. I mean, You're not talking about a typical story here. We're talking about somebody who had literally nothing.
Right.
So how did that affect your mental health and well-being? But at the same time, were there days you woke up and thought that this is going to be my life and there's no way out? And how was that road? And how were you able to become a business person when you had no structure?
Right. Yeah. That's that's an interesting. I mean, that's a great question, because it's like, especially when you're young, and you see, like, I think when you're young, you also have a lot of peer pressure. Mm-hmm. And so you see your friends wearing Jordans, or they looking fly when they go into the classroom or the first day of school. Everyone has new clothes, and you're like, I don't have that, and then you try to figure out how do you cover that up when it's kind of hard to cover it up, like people, because sometimes the people that's around you are very harsh. And so for me, I just kind of learned, like, for one is I've always had people who are like my brothers or my sisters. Like, I've always, like, adopted friends to become family, right? Also had people, my mom and my father actually kind of departed out my life completely. Like, in school, I had like my principal was my school mom. And then when I started working, when I had my first job, actually working at like Planned Parenthood, the boss there was my working mom. And so everywhere I went, I had someone to play a role for me, for those individuals that weren't in my life. Mm-hmm. And so even when they didn't know that I was going to the shelter, or that I was going to the projects, or staying in the park, they never like looked down upon me, I would say. They always if they had a sense, they would try to do things for me in a way that's like, hey, Ra, I got an extra coat, do you want it? Or things like that. But I've always stuck my head into books. My first book that I actually purchased that I remember was called The Leadership for Dummies. And that was my first book that I bought with my own money. And I remember to this day, like, I remember just being in the classroom and just reading it while the teacher was teaching Shakespeare. And I kept telling her, like, I don't understand this, I understand this. And, but going through, like, those hardships, there are dark moments. There are, I think that for people who've never experienced it, I would say you really don't want to, you wouldn't want to. And I don't think that, again, because, you kind of also know who your true friends are. Mm-hmm. You see how family, that people that claim you as family, that they don't show up for you. You also understand, like even if you're going through the hardest times and you have no place to go, people will look down upon you, even when they do have. Like, I remember being on the corner asking for change. And I remember my coach, I played basketball, and my coach pulled up, and he was so shocked because he had actually cut me from varsity, and I ended up playing in JV. But I was like, if I'm not going to be playing varsity, what's the point of me even playing? So towards the end, because I wasn't getting any playing time for JV, I just left, and I ran into my mother, and she's like, hey baby, well look, you can come on the corner with me and we can get money by asking people for a change. Mm-hmm. And I was like maybe 15, 16 years of age, and in high school, and I'm out on the corner asking for quarters and dimes. And when my coach seen me, he was so shocked. And the first thing he said to me was like, I better see you at tryouts when the season is over, when the next season comes. So, so those are some hard things that I had to experience, mm-hmm. but also talked about resilience, like how do you, like, overcoming is like always having this vision, like, I can do better, I can be better. I've always read motivational books, songs that inspired me. I would only go to places that being empowered, mm-hmm. or I felt that people appreciated me for who I was. Mm-hmm. And anytime I got tested by things that really didn't matter, I just didn't get involved with it, or I just didn't hang with those individuals. Mm-hmm. Even though I knew, like, because sometimes you can be very, like, for me, I was very short-tempered, because it's like I didn't want people to know what I was going through, and so anytime someone kind of tested to see, I would just get super upset and just leave. Yeah, absolutely. Right. But that was kind of like what it was, really, really. They were always happy. There were happy times in the midst of that. Like, you always find the sunshine, mm-hmm. in between. Right.
Did you feel that music and did you see that as a form of healing, and did it move you to did certain lyrics move you to want to strive Absolutely. Out of that, current situation?
Yeah. It was crazy. the militant part was like I'm a huge fan of Tupac. That was my guy, and I loved listening to his music. I just felt like he was like the one that spoke out the most to me. I was still am a big Jay-Z fan. Just loved the way like he started from nothing to something in a sense. But Biggie's lyrics, Juicy. That was it. Like I remember going to places. I'm like, yo, just play Juicy. Just play that song, and I'm good. You know. And like those lyrics got to me. Even Donny Hathaway had some lyrics and some songs really touched me as well. So yeah, music played a really therapeutic role. When things got really tough, I would just go in the corner, put my headphones, my Walkman on, and I'll just, I'll zone out.
Right. So, and I'm sure it was interesting for you to see you weren't alone, but then you weren't alone listening to the radio, somebody who came from nothing as well, and now is a celebrity. I'm sure that gave you a push.
Yeah, like big brothers.
Yeah. So now we're gonna ask, what's the best advice that you would give to somebody, regardless of what situation they're in? They could be in a situation similar to yours, or worse, or just in general. What's the best advice you would give to somebody that's feeling worthless, feeling like they want to give up?
Yeah, so the quote that I've always shared is like, your location is not your destination. So yeah, your location is not your destination. I actually used that quote the other day. I was like, it had to be. You have to, yes. But definitely like that quote in itself has so many meanings, no matter who you are, what you look like, what country you're in, like your location is not your destination. And when you look about all things that's happening in the world today, whether you're watching this video for the first time and you're coming from a refugee camp, or if you're coming from a homeless shelter, or you're coming from like you just like thinking about dropping out of school, or your job is being tested, or you having a big issue in your relationship, like your location is not your destination. Like you have to really take that in and realize like, yo, like I wasn't here last year, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I will only be important for people to remind themselves that as long as they are alive, they will always move forward. Even if they make the decision not to do anything, time will force you to make change. And that change that time pushes you to do, it'll be forcing it, and you'll be really upset at what the position that you'll be in, rather than taking the time to plan out and say, you know what, I want to go here, let me plan it out, let me push myself, rather than be pushed by an individual or... So,
when was the first memorable moment you went beyond your limits?
So, good story, short story, is I was in Monterrey, Mexico, and it was like the first time I was going to be in Mexico for a week. And I just did this huge conference, and one of my friends down there asked me, did I want to go hiking, or have I been hiking on a mountain? And I said no. And so they're like, oh, we got this mountain called Chapinque, we think you should really try, like everyone, it's a very famous mountain. So I said, okay, cool. So me coming from Newark, you know what I mean, and just like inner city kid, like mountains, like I don't have, but had my Nike Dunks, I had on some jeans and a t-shirt and a book bag, sandwich, 2 Snicker bars, and a liter of water. I thought the hike was going to be for like 3 to 4 hours. Like, oh yeah, it's going to be about 4 hours and we'll be done. We get to the mountain at 7 o'clock in the morning. We got to the top. It took us 9 hours in total, right? But there was a moment where we were going up towards the higher we were climbing, the more narrow the trail. 3 hours in, my friend says, we're gonna go off the trail, we're gonna go on this man-made trail. I'm like, all right, well, yesterday this guy was like, you shouldn't, you just follow the regular trail that's given to you, don't veer off. But I trusted my friend, and there's a lot of lessons come with this. So I trusted my friend because he's done this before, so I follow him. We got to a part in the mountain that was so narrow, so tight, that you had to either like walk on the side of the mountain because there's nothing over there. Like you're above the clouds. Like if you just do one slip, it's over for you, right? So for like, I don't even know, for 20 minutes, I got so nervous that I couldn't move. Because I was like, yo, this, no lie. In my head, I was like, yo, here's this black kid from Newark, New Jersey and Mexico about to fall off this cliff. What will the news say about me, right? Like yeah, this kid, like who does this? And I'm sitting here, and there's a friend behind me, and my homeboy's in front of me, and he's used to it, so he's moving, but he's going really slow too because he knows that this is a really dangerous trail. But I couldn't move, and in my head I'm like, yo, I can't go back, because if I decide to say, yo, I can't do this, I gotta go back another 3-4 hours. So instead of me on my hands and my knees, and I mean my feet and my hands, and I just started crawling because it was so narrow. When I get to a point where I just couldn't, I had to stop again. I said, you know what? If I die, so be it. I don't even care. Let's do this. And I got up and I just held one hand to the mountain and kept walking. And when we walked, it was like maybe like.
Don't try this at home.
No,
guys.
please don't try this at home. But this is pushing it going beyond the limit, because here was me questioning the trust of a friend, trusting or questioning, why am I doing this, and then also actually coming full steam ahead to fear, and saying, will fear tell me to go back and I go, or will I just knock fear out of the box and just keep going? And so when I was like, yo, forget it, I was like, if I die, so be it. At least I'm dying doing something that I want to do. And that was literally the statement that came out of my head. And I kept walking. And when I got to the peak of the mountain, I got to the top, the most beautiful, amazing view. Super quiet. You hear you hear the whistle of the wind. And it was just like, bro. And they were saying like, yeah, who climbs up here? Like, how many people like has climbed here? Has any American even climbed this mountain, right? And we sitting there for an hour. We ended up taking a nap. We had lunch up there. I gave a little lesson, like a little motivation. He's like, yo, can you do a little? Yeah, just chilling. And did another 4 or 5 hours going down. And by the time I got down, it was like almost like, yeah, it was pretty late, like 5-6 hours. And then my friend's mother picked us up. And
what were your thoughts? Just curiosity, because I can compare that experience alone to life itself. It's
totally.
you're basically feeling like you're about to die and give up.
Oh yeah.
But then you end up. I mean, obviously he did it to a greater extent, but it just he felt like he was. That's it. He's going to fall and he's going to die. But you know, in the end, it was worth it. He's seen a beautiful view and he made it. So it's just like, I feel like that was kind of. It resonated with your life in a way, because it's like you're climbing this mountain, and this mountain is life. It's like you're going through life, difficult times, you're going through the darkest times, you're feeling like you're hopeless, you're looking down like this is it, but then you looked up and said, no, I'm going to keep going, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how, you know. And
you realize too that, because it's just as like the crazy thing is that when I had that moment where I pushed through, like there were moments I had to take a break because, you know, my knees are really shaking. Like I'm really like nervous. I don't know, like it's crazy to describe it. But at the moments that I stopped, I said, take a breather, and I looked around like, but look how beautiful this is. Like the fear blocked me from seeing the beauty of how high I was and what I've already accomplished. I already did 3-4 hours climbing up the mountain, and fear just blocked me from seeing how beautiful and how far I've gotten. But it's like, yo, you're almost there, so just keep going. And like, again, your location is not your destination. Wow. So when you get there, it's not only that you see the beauty of it all, but you're actually giving like life lessons to your friends who guided you. So it's like another thing, like here are my friends from Mexico and I'm from the US. They're guiding me in familiar territory that they know and that they want to do. But when we get to the top, I'm guiding them about their life on a mountain that they got me to, if that makes sense. Like,
right. Like basically, I mean, they seem more experienced at a certain point, but so basically you compare that to everyday life.
Correct.
No matter how smart a person is, you're going to be smarter than them in a different area.
Correct.
That's exactly
what And if you have that trust factor, you trust them to make sure, like knowing that they got you, that they're going to guide you to where you need to get to. And even when we got to where we needed to get to, we still had to go back down. It wasn't like, oh, this is it. Like you still got to hike another, you know. And it's just as dangerous. It's just as tiring, tiresome. And yet, and still, like we're gonna get through it. Like I was scratched up. I had like these plants had us itching. Like it was crazy, and I wasn't completely prepared. Like I still got through it, even not being prepared. This goes back to like my life. Like I've studied at Harvard. I traveled the world, but the tools that was given to me wasn't tools that fully prepared me for life in a sense. but I still work with what I had, and it still got me to where people who are fully prepared don't even get a chance to experience or be able to finish. So in a sense, it's all about that resilience, that passion, that focus, that envisioning where you want to be and where you want to go, the end result, and knowing like no matter what, like I'm going to get through it. And you know, I did it with some Nike dunks.
Nike.
You know what I'm saying? And 2 Snicker bars and a bottle of water. But think about that. That's for like 8 hours.
Do it again? No.
Nah, if I'm not prepared for it, nah.
Okay, so tell us about your Voices for World Peace.
So Voices for World Peace is an initiative that was actually created by Amir Amashek, who's actually he's from Pakistan, but he lives he's Oslo, Norway now. We all kind of came together one night and had a discussion about let's put together an organization that's about being a voice for those that's less fortunate, for those let's create peace. Let's be a voice for change and peace for all countries, for humanity as a whole. And so that night in Oslo, Norway, we made it and we all signed it. And we decided to create this organization. And so last May 3rd, we hosted our first Voices of the World Peace concert. And we had a lot of diplomats and ambassadors from different countries come out. We had, who also, one of the advisors for the organization, who also is a big supporter, is Malala's father. He actually spoke as well, which was so awesome. And it was just like, it's just all about getting the voices together as a collective whole to promote peace. And also to create different programs and dinners and all types of projects that will help solve problems, and try to eradicate terrorism and all this, anything that deals with like the degrading of people, culture, or individuals. In that case, really had also, and but it's also catered to the youth, the voices of the youth, because we always felt that the youth always plays a major role in any movement or any push for change. So if you doing all these other things, they have ample amount of time. So if you allow their voices to be heard and their voices are first,
give them the resources.
Give them the resources, give them the platform. And so that's what we do. And so like even now, one of the things I would love to do here in the US, because we haven't done anything yet here, is to host like a global leadership dinner here, and invite a lot of young people who are between the ages of 40 and under, 35 and under, and have them come together just for dinner and dialogue. Like that's it. Like we're gonna just take whatever they've got and then you add it to your tree. Like they understand that no matter what is being presented in front of them through media, whether bad or good, that they understand what reality is, what truth is, what honesty is, and what it really is going to take for them to create something to include people that are diverse in all backgrounds.
Your book.
So my book, Dina, I published 12 books, and I have 12 books published. Thank you. I republished and I did a second edition of a book called 123 last year, and that's a memoir of my life between my adolescence into my college years. And it's about what was some of the struggles that I went through and some of the lessons that I learned. It kind of just documented my path to becoming a global leader and entrepreneur. And then I also released Skyscraper, which is a book about how to go beyond to reach your greatness, pretty much. And that book was inspired by to having this theory or this mindset of getting rid of all my expectations and only having a standard, which is only dealing with a certain type of people, eating a particular type of food, listening to only a particular type of music, and just only wanting quality work to be done. So not cutting any corners. And I was like, whatever this book attracts and creates is only because that I had a standard. And it's all about how to be a global leader. And it's pretty awesome because of the fact that I never created a leadership book, and I felt that it was important that I created a blueprint or a manual that will help people, and no matter where they're from, to kind of use these tips and these tactics, and also gave case studies to different organizations and people who were great at what they do as leaders and as entrepreneurs. So 12 books, one nomination with the second book, Homeroom Heroes, that was back in 2008. And so all my books are catered to just global leadership, entrepreneurship, but just self-help, personal development. And so now that my tour is kicking off in March, we now have a book that is going to be able to be sold in those 3 native languages that are in those countries. So like Portugal, Brazil, and then when I go down, of course, Mexico and any other countries that native tongue is Spanish, they can actually have the option now to get it in their native tongue or into English.
Right. Wow. I mean, inspiration right here. I mean, definitely very intrigued, and I hope everybody watching this has learned something, has been felt inspired by his story. I mean, he's such a he's just an example of, you know, regardless of where you are, just like he says, you know, your location is not your destination. You know, regardless where you are in your life, you know, the road to resilience is possible. You just need to just need that, you know, that push, and realize that your dreams, everything is going to happen if you're persistent and you're motivated. But I thank you for this, you know, lovely interview, Rahfeal Gordon. And I really would love to stay in touch, and I would love also everybody watching to stay connected. With Style and Resilience is basically, we would love to have entrepreneurs, have those who have gone through adversity, really just creating, you know, unity and learning from one another. Absolutely. So hopefully we can learn more and keep each other updated. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Woo woo.